you end up a commercial. Okay, and thus we get into the main plotline. Now, I don't remember the line exactly, but there is a little bit of something in the movie, in the finished product, that's actually kind of interesting. I believe Alfred brings up that Bruce made Batman as a way to, as something of a force of control, in order to control things and sometimes even control death itself. Now this is interesting. This could have been what the movie was about. Control. Batman, after his parents died, would have a complete loss of control with all this trauma and everything. So he creates Batman as something of a defense mechanism in order to seize control back. And it could be the reason why he's Batman now. He chooses to be Batman now, yes, but he still has some remnants of that desire for control of other things, which has its uses. It allows him to push himself harder and stronger than most other men could even dream of. But it makes him a controlling personality. Thus, the conflict with Robin. So Batman's arc would be, in this movie, would be about control. Understanding why he's becoming so controlling, being aware of that, so that he can start to do something about that. And I'm not going to go too much into specifics, since it would be up to the movie maker, but I'd have it so that over the movie he'd start trusting other people more and more. Start really letting other people do their job without hovering over their shoulder and stuff like that. And this would really come into play with Robin and with the villain, Mr. Freeze. Now Robin would be interesting because Mark in his movie is about being in Batman's shadow, feeling underutilized and just sort of there. He kind of feels useless because he feels like he's not being used to his full potential. He just sees himself in Batman's shadow as his sidekick and starts kind of resenting him for that. When Batman starts doing things that in order to help him, in order to save him, Robin starts really thinking that Batman doesn't really want him there, he's just sort of stuck with him. Thus we'd have an arc for Robin where he really comes into his own and starts understanding what it means to be mature, what it means to be able to have control over your own life. Thus, control, it comes back. And hopefully by the end of the movie, Robin would be able to actually go out on his own for the first time. In fact, that's probably a good ending scene. Batman letting Robin go after like a robbery or a criminal of something, or something like that, on his own for the very first time. And thus, we would have Batman and Robin not as a hero and a sidekick, but as two equals, which I think would be a great ending point and a great jumping board for the future, or springboard, whichever it is. Now, Mr. Freeze comes in as sort of the antithesis of Batman, in a way. So I'm probably using that word wrong. The important thing is they both want control, but for different reasons. Batman wants control as sort of a way to help others, to prevent bad things from happening to them as happened to him, which is understandable. Unfortunately, sometimes it means limiting other people's growth because he's not letting them go. He's controlling to the point where it's inhibiting their growth, as they're not able to experience the loss. They're not able to experience the things that shape them into who they could be. And I'm not saying Batman should let people die. It's more, it's basically what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes he just doesn't really trust people enough to be as talented as they think they are, or they might actually be. He pushes them on. He needs to be able to push them out in the water and have them swim, rather than just keep them wearing water floaties all the time, even when they've outgrown it. Metaphor. Moving on. Thus, Mr. Freeze here would be controlled for the sake of power. He lost control not only when he lost his wife, but also when his body changed to require sub-zero temperatures. Thus, he feels like he's lost control since he's not really able to interact with the outside world as much because, well, he can't even touch it. He can't exit his suit without dying. So he wants to freeze Gotham and, well, freeze the world out of just an aimless anger at being unable to exert the control he feels he deserves. Now, I think this would be interesting to see the difference between the two, as Batman, as they both want control for completely the opposite reasons. Batman wants control to help. Mr. Freeze wants control as for revenge and such. So thus would be his ultimate downfall. I mean, backstories, and these are a little bit similar. Both kick-started by the loss of loved ones, and then gaining some sort of ability, usually through technology, in order to do something about it. The main difference is Mr. Freeze also has the added negative effect of the entire having to be at sub-zero temperatures at all times, in combination with him deciding to use his new gifts of technology and such for evil rather than good. So, here Mr. Freeze would be Batman's ultimate villain. Batman on his own would not be able to defeat him, and Batman, hampering Robin as he is, would still not be able to defeat him. So the movie would be about them going against Mr. Freeze, but failing time and time again because Batman's not fully trusting Robin. And thus there's conflict between them increases as there's extra friction. Robin resents Batman more and more, causing Batman to limit him more and more, thinking he's just not ready for this, until it would eventually explode, possibly a fight between the two, but eventually it would be resolved, generally through Alfred, who would still get that disease, except this time he'd actually die. Because in the movie, him having the disease pretty much was just another thing to add some sort of tension to the plot, but in the end means nothing. But if he dies, then it would show to Batman that he can't control everything. There are some things he can't do anything about. And once he accepts that sometimes you can't have control over everything, there are times you just need to let go. So he finally lets go. He finally trusts Robin, and so the two finally go against Mr. Freeze. Not as a hero and sidekick, but as equals. And then he defeats them. So that's basically my idea. It's it's relatively a straightforward movie about it's two heroes going against a villain, conflict, and then winning. It's very straightforward, plenty of opportunity for some humor if you need it, and action definitely. It's not overly complicated with too many characters, too many plot threads or anything. It's got Batman's plot, Robin's plot, and then a little bit of Mr. Freeze and Alfred in there. That's it. Very nice, very straightforward. If the movie was made like this, I think it would have worked. If you're going to experience Batman and Robin at all, I would still recommend the novelization, since I feel, while it still has some serious problems from the movie, since it's essentially the movie of, essentially is still the movie, and with all of its problems, but at least it's still a little bit more bearable, since there's a teensy bit more to it. There's a little bit more in backstory, there's a little bit more in fleshing out characters. Since with words, with a novel, you generally have a little bit more time to flesh things out. So it has a little bit more depth to it than the movie, but it still has the problems in the movie. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. With these changes, Batman and Robin would not have been the failure and painful mess it is now, it would have been a good movie. The rest would be on Schumacher's shoulders to make it into a great movie. Now, Batman Triumphant, from what I've heard, could have been an interesting ending point, but honestly, it could have also ended here, since both Batman's and his arcs would be completed at this point. Those probably could be more of what of a Batman character, since apparently Batman Triumphant was actually going to feature like the ghost of Joker, so it could be about Batman facing his past, which would be an interesting little take, but that would be for another video entirely with a different series, since this was just a rewrite of Batman and Robin. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that, and if I get enough positive feedback, I might look into other movies that could rewrite in the style. Until then, I'm just some generic reviewer with some generic catchphrase.